What an honor and a privilege to have you on the RFF stage. This is our 5th edition of this phenomenal forum, and you are our closing speaker, concluding 3 wonderful days of conversation and connection, insights and inspiration. So really, no pressure.
How's everybody? Good?
Amazing, we're great.
Anyway.
So welcome.
Yeah.
This is our closing conversation, and in this room are people who turn big ideas and ambition into real places, which I know you know a thing or two about with some of the projects you've been involved with. And our theme this year has been all about expanding horizons. And honestly, if anyone has experience and embodies what that means in practice, for me, that is definitely you.
Thank you.
So it's wonderful to have you with us here in Riyadh, and I know this is not your first time. You visited the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia many times, most recently back in April, I believe, while you were launching your new venture. So how does it feel to be back?
Well, it's always good to be back. Every decade that I come to Saudi Arabia, the country is moving forward, and in a very positive, exciting way. I mean, keeping its traditions, but also opening up to new ideas, and so there's fantastic opportunities here. The people are wonderfully welcoming.
Yes.
Thank you for having us back. And now I can fly on Virgin Atlantic, our own airline here.
Oh, indeed, and we will talk about that. We're going to come to that. You speak about, the decades of change, but I imagine there's been change even in the last year. I mean, since you visited in April to now, have you felt, you've been out in the city a little bit today, have you felt anything different?
Yes, I mean, there's a lot of buildings going on.
Yeah. These people in the room know all about buildings, by the way.
No. Today, Virgin Mobile opened a store in the city, which I've just come from opening, and so I think like almost every second of every day, something new is emerging here, and it's wonderful to be part of that.
That's fantastic. And I know there's something that you very much have in common with the RFF audience, which is this absolute passionate commitment to building things. I mean, they're not necessarily buildings, they're not necessarily real estate, but you have spent decades building and doing things that are new. So what tells you that a horizon is worth pursuing? What tells you in your gut that you really want to chase something?
Most of my ideas come out of personal frustration, a feeling that I can do it better. And in my lifetime, I've had quite a few personal frustrations. If I go back many years, there was a wonderful musician who brought me a tape, and I loved it, and I took it to other record companies. But they all said no. So I thought, screw that, we'll set up our own record company and put it out. And over the years, we built up a record company with the Rolling Stones and Janet Jackson and the Spice Girls and lots of wonderful bands. But if I hadn't been frustrated by lack of action from the other record companies, I would never have started a record company. And then perhaps the more classic example was, I was trying to fly to the Virgin Islands one day. I was 28 years old.
Is this before or after you'd bought the island?
This was just as I was getting the island.
Okay, so you definitely needed to be able to get there.
I needed to get there. I was in Puerto Rico. I had a beautiful lady waiting for me in the Virgin Islands. I was in Puerto Rico, and I was on an American Airlines plane, and the pilot came on the speaker and said, "I'm very sorry, but you're all going to have to come back tomorrow morning. There's not enough passengers on board." So I got off the plane, and I told all the passengers to wait together. And then I went to the back of the airport, and I hired a plane, and I wrote it on a blackboard as a joke, Virgin Airlines one way to the Virgin Islands, $39. And I went to all the passengers, and I filled up my first plane, and we all got to the Virgin Islands that night. And then somebody said, sharpen up the service a bit and you could be in the airline business. And so the next day I rang Boeing and said, do you have any second-hand 747s for sale? And anyway, we ended up getting our first 747 flying to New York from London as Virgin. And that was 40 years ago. And because people like the airline, it's developed and expanded all over the world. We've got the biggest airline now in Australia, Virgin Australia, which is bigger than Qantas. We had Virgin America. So that came out of personal frustration. Yes. If I hadn't had that frustrating moment on American Airlines plane, I don't think I would have started an airline. So, and that has applied to a lot of businesses since.
Yeah. Anyone here casually tried to buy a second-hand 747? No? Any takers?
We don't want more competition. We've got enough. Thank you.
No, indeed.
I was doing a talk like this once, and in Greece, and a guy called Stelios was listening. And
oh no! I know where this is going.
Yeah, and he went and liked the idea and started EasyJet in Britain, and he doesn't directly compete with us, but he went into the airline business because of a conversation like this.
I love the idea, though, that solutions are born from problems that you can see or frustrations that you might have experienced. I think it is such a helpful starting point, especially for somebody who is quite entrepreneurial but maybe doesn't know where to begin.
Yeah, I'll give you one other example. Cruise ships is something which I've never thought I'd want to go on a cruise ship. And I was having a dinner with a group of people, and half of them go on cruise ships, and the other half would never go on a cruise ship. So, we got a sheet of paper out, and we thought, right, what is it? Why do we not want to ever go on a cruise ship? And what is it about cruise ships that currently exist that we don't like? And then we mapped out, what we thought would be the kind of cruise line that myself and my friends would like to go on, and then we built a couple of cruise ships in Italy. Virgin Voyages, and we decided it should be adult only, so that if it's adults only, you can make sure it's you really concentrate on looking after the adults, not half looking after the adults, half looking after the children, and it's become an incredible success.
Yes.
We just got our fourth cruise ship, Brilliant Lady, and it's very different from other cruise lines. Yes. and I enjoy going on it, and my friends do. So.
I think she was testing in Malaga for a while, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was.
Yes, I think I saw her quite regularly doing all of her pre-checks.
Our timing wasn't great. We launched it the same week COVID started, so that wasn't very sensible.
Not so fun.
And I mentioned the Spice Girls. They were meant to come and help us launch, and they rang me up and said that there's something called COVID on cruise ships.
Oh, no.
I don't think we should come and... I said, don't be stupid, you come. And anyway...
It definitely changed our world in lots of ways. But you are such a respected and admired entrepreneur, particularly here in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, where the young population and the population in general is incredibly entrepreneurially minded. Are there any little nuggets? Have you seen any opportunities, any frustrations where you think maybe there might be some opportunity for our friends in the audience?
So I think I need to spend more time here. I think if I was starting off as an entrepreneur in Saudi Arabia, I would first of all look for things that are not being done well in my own country. Yeah. I think I would then take maybe a Virgin Atlantic plane to England or another plane. Anyway, but go to Europe, go to America, just travel the world, and see what exciting things are going on in Paris, what exciting things are going on in London, what exciting things are going on in New York or New Orleans that are not happening in Saudi Arabia. And the good thing about starting businesses in Saudi Arabia is, there's still maybe another 20 years before Saudi Arabia gets to gets to a sort of London or New York, and so there's still lots of things that are happening overseas that people in Saudi and visitors to Saudi would love to see.
Yeah.
And so don't be shy about occasionally copying and then improving on something you see overseas.
And I love that idea about bringing in a wider lens, bringing in curiosity, bringing in global perspective, bringing in other opinions. And very much that's what this forum does and is such a brilliant champion for. But people is part of that. And you are notoriously, in a very good way, a people person. You've built teams with extraordinary people. So what is it that you look for when you do build a team for a new venture? Kind of, I imagine that's an absolute foundation to something being successful.
Yeah, I think the person who's running a company, if they're good with people, if they look for the best in people, if they praise and don't criticize, then that ricochets down through your company, and people. I mean, it's just like watering flowers. If you water your people regularly and you water your flowers regularly, the flowers will flourish and your people will flourish. If you're the kind of leader that is out to criticize people, that is looking for the worst in people, is always trying to find fault with people. In the same way that a flower will shrivel up and die because it's not watered, the same things will happen with people. So I think find leaders that are wonderful with people, and your company will flourish. And make sure you don't ever bring somebody in who's the opposite of that.
Because you're very values-led, aren't you? You talk about curiosity, kindness, and fun across your organizations. How have you really embedded that culture in practical ways?
So I don't think one should take oneself too seriously. I mean, I think that the truth is that the people want to have fun. People want to. You only live once, and you want to enjoy the life you live. I mean, on Necker Island, where I live, every single table is made for dancing on, and very often we have everybody dancing on the table. You've got to be careful not to fall off, but it makes people smile and laugh, and it gets the evening going. And obviously, as the leader, it's important that I'm first on the table. As the leader, if you've got a party by a swimming pool, it's important that I'm the first in the pool, fully clothed, in order for everybody else to have a good time.
I mean, this is truly leading by example.
This is very leading. But, I mean, not everyone in this room is going to, lead like that. But, I mean, I think it's worth remembering that, people want to be able to smile. They want to have a good time. They want to enjoy life. And the more you can try to enable people who are working for you to to have a good time, the better they will perform.
Yes.
And you won't, you're not going to lose people to other companies if they're enjoying the time with your company.
Yeah. And I would say it's very interesting that the majority, if not all of your businesses, seem to be focused on giving people the opportunity to either enjoy life or experience more of life or push a boundary. And I would love to turn our attention to a huge horizon expanding business of yours and talk a little bit about Virgin Galactic, because that really was an outrageous ambition that was made real. So should we show the video and then have a little chat about it?
Thank you.
Please, can you show the Virgin Galactic video?
To all you kids down there, I was once a child with a dream, looking up to the stars. Now I'm an adult in a spaceship with lots of other wonderful adults looking down to our beautiful, beautiful Earth. To the next generation of dreamers, if we can do this, just imagine what you can do. Hey!
Come on out, Richard.
To the next generation of dreamers, imagine this. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But if we can do this, imagine what you can do. Is that why you wanted to, was it to set a benchmark for what was possible?
So, how many people in this room want to go to space?
Definitely. I want to go to the moon.
Okay,
Space.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
So I was like you once, and I wanted to go to space, but I didn't want to spend, $70 million going to space. So I thought it'd be much better to try to build our own spaceships and our own motherships and our own spaceport and do it ourselves. And it took, I thought it would take 5 years. It took about 20 years. So it was a big project. And we had tears along the way. But finally we got there, and it was the most extraordinary day of my life, yeah. and I think it would be the most extraordinary day of a lot of people's lives in this room, we're the only space line which has a proper spaceship. It's not just a rocket where you go up and down, and the experience is extraordinary. You go from 0 to 3,500 miles an hour in 8 seconds. So it's quite a trip up there, and it's not you might think that you're going to feel slightly sick. It's not. It's just the pressure on your chest, but. Anyway, every moment of it is magnificent, and I very much look forward to seeing some of these people going up one day.
Where can we sign up, I think is what we're all asking, isn't it? No. But interestingly, you talked about pace there. You said that you thought it would take 5 years, it took 20. I think a lot of the projects that a lot of the people in this room deal with struggle with pace. There's a lot of emphasis on pace and speed and being ahead, and things happen very fast here. But how do you deal with frustration? You said there were tears, but how do you keep going when it's really tough to see the end?
So I think I will work day and night to avoid failure, and I'll go right into the early hours of the morning, to make sure that something succeeds. But if having worked day and night to avoid failure, something, does not succeed, then as long as I've done everything I can to avoid failure, I'm willing to accept it. I'm not, and the next day I will, put it behind me, and then I'll move forward on to the next project. And I think, if you're a true entrepreneur, you're going to have failures. Otherwise, you're not a true entrepreneur.
Not pushing far enough and hard enough.
Yeah,
and
you've got to. I'm trying things all the time. We've just started flying Virgin Atlantic to this city. I don't know whether it's going to succeed or not, but we will try it. We'll give it our best shot. We'll see if we can fill the plane. We'd love it if everybody could help us fill the planes. But if it doesn't work out, we'll put the plane on another route. So
absolutely.
So I think we will do everything we can to make things successful, as everybody in this room should do.
Yeah.
But don't get too depressed if it doesn't work out, and don't, as long as you've tried your best, then move on.
I love that. I love that we're pushing these horizons. Yes, absolutely. What a wonderful message.
Thank you.
You mentioned the Virgin Atlantic route, which is now flying London to Riyadh, which is incredibly exciting. But it's really come about as well as a result, well, not as a result, but you've put a very strong partnership in place. And I just want to touch on partnerships because it's another theme that we discuss here at the forum. Because you have a co-chair partner with Saudia. How does that help to enter a new market or to start a new project when you choose partners to work with rather than trying to go it alone?
So I'm a great believer in partners. I mean, we generally speaking start our companies 100% owned, And then in time, we'll maybe sell our shares down so we have a 50-50 partnership. So, for instance, with Virgin Atlantic, we now have a partnership with Delta Airlines. They own 49% of the company. We own 51%. The important thing with partnerships is, they've got to be like a good marriage. You just got to, there's got to be give and take in a partnership, and you've got to make it work. And sometimes, if there's an argument, you'd back off and let them accept that their point of view, and then in return, I'm sure they'll accept your point of view on occasions. But I think one plus one with partnerships can equal 3 if both sides are determined to make it work.
That's fantastic, that sort of symbiotic relationship which has extra added value, which is such an important part of what we're trying to achieve here. Now, some of the focus areas for the Kingdom are about expanding sort of economic pillars, looking at business in real estate as well as tourism, investing in sport, prop tech, things like that. You have a huge amount of experience building in a lot of those areas, but predominantly in building strong brands. And all of these companies have brand identities, but also the Kingdom itself has a brand. Are there any fundamentals that you would encourage us all to put in place when we're thinking about the brand story that we're telling?
So your personal brand and the brand of your company, it's all about reputation, and one has to zealously protect one's reputation. One has to zealously behave in a way that your reputation is not going to be damaged. The Virgin brand is nearly 60 years old, and by and large, I think we've managed to keep by creating things that are the best in their field, by the way we deal with our people and so on. I think we've managed to keep a good reputation over those 60 years. Now, a reputation can be damaged very quickly if one makes a big mistake, and then you just have to you have to effectively apologize and deal with that mistake, and then hope that you haven't done your brand too much damage. But reputation is key, and that's worth fighting for through. Everything you do, everything you do in building your brand.
Absolutely. You're very much known as being an early adopter, someone who enters new markets feet first, I would say, with a lot of gusto and a lot of passion. There are lots of things happening. The pace of change in industry, in business across the world is enormous, and people in this room are absolutely facing that challenge of not only entering new markets, but trying to stay ahead of the curve with AI, with technology. Also, there's a new law here that's just changed, which is about having non-Saudi ownership for property for the first time. So huge numbers of opportunities in new markets or changing markets. Is there something that would give you confidence when you're entering a new market as an early adopter, as somebody who's trying to get ahead? Is there something that would give you that moment of going, yeah, actually, I am going to do this. This is worth a shot?
So I think if we're going into a new country, the rule of law is obviously critical. That you know that you can trust the rule of law. I think a country that doesn't do bribes, or where you know that that what you see is what you get is very, very important. And in a sense, that all comes back to reputation again.
Yes.
A country needs to needs to keep its reputation, as well as the companies keeping their reputation. So So we won't generally deal with countries where those sorts of things are questionable.
So reputation, maintaining the standards, ensuring that what says happens, all of those things are critically important, as this lens is going to be on the kingdom with lots of exciting events coming up and lots of things changing. So I think keeping reputation is really important.
And I think, I mean, Saudi is still a young country as far as, I mean, it's not a young country in reality, but as far as the West looking at Saudi is concerned, the way it's evolving, it's evolving, cautiously, step by step, but it is evolving.
Yes.
And it's evolving in a way, I think, that, people from overseas will now think of Saudi as a possibility of coming to. At the moment, they're more likely perhaps to go to the Emirates, but Saudi are now doing things which I think will enable more and more people to come here, and I think that will definitely help the economy of Saudi.
Yeah, it's very exciting times, and like you say, evolution with big ambition is definitely a hallmark of this country. So in conclusion, because we are rapidly coming to the end of our conversation, which felt like it flew by, thank you for your insights. Thank you so much for sharing a lot of your experience and some of the things that have brought you success in your projects. We're coming to the end of 3 amazing days of conversation, of inspiration, of light bulb moments. You're somebody who takes advice on board, who listens, who is open, who is curious. Is there something you could leave us all with that will help these things stick as we go out back into the world, as we leave the doors of the conference center, as we take these ideas back into our jobs? Do you have some personal philosophy that you hold on to that enables you to take your life lessons and evolve with them?
Wow.
Just a small question to finish. I mean, just a tiny one.
Final words of wisdom. Now, look, I just want to say, first of all, thank you for having me. I do a few talks a year to help various different foundations around the world, and this talk, you've been good enough to give some money to some different foundations that are doing really wonderful things in the world. And at Virgin, what we try to do is, one of the ways we inspire all the people who work for Virgin is that a good percentage of our profits goes to tackling, some of the bigger problems in the world. For instance, I've just come back from Ukraine, where there's need for prosthetic hospitals, and there's 85,000 people without legs and arms in Ukraine, and we've helped build a number of hospitals there to help these people. There's the environmental problems of this world. We've set up an organization called Planetary Guardians, which is trying to protect species and protect rainforests and try to move the world forward in a positive way. The elders, which we talked about, which we set up with Nelson Mandela, has done wonderful things over the years. So I think for companies to not just be money-making machines, but consider coming up with causes which they can address, that will again be a wonderful for the people who work for your company, if they know that they're not just making money for 1 or 2 shareholders or a family, they're also that some of that money is going to sort out issues which your staff can relate to. So. Anyway, throw that out as a suggestion.
I think it's wonderful. I think we've had some insight as well about some of the philanthropic endeavours taking place across the kingdom and beyond. I think it is absolutely linked to your desire, that passion and purpose drives what people do. That feels like that's something that's a very strong philosophy for you. So thank you so much for sharing that. I hope you've enjoyed your experience at the forum.
Of course. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
A massive round of applause, please, Sir Richard Branson.
Yeah.
Please don't leave. We have a small token, thank you, of our appreciation for you. Mr. Abdullah Al-Harbi, the CEO of RFF, is going to just present you with a very small token of our thanks, of our appreciation, and take a photograph with you. Mr. Al-Harbi. Thank you so much.